Blog Talk Radio.
All praises to our Elohim, our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our Creator, our Ancient of Days. All praises. He has brought us up out of Egypt, and he's soon to bring us up out of Babylon. And as he does this, there's still a lot for us to do. Just because we think we know, we don't. Tonight, I want to recap quickly based on last week's show. I don't believe I was clear. I clarified enough of what I was trying to convey in terms of the empathy and not really caring about these folks. Now, I care, and I definitely have empathy for the downtrodden, for the oppressed, for the innocent. Yet I cannot muster the energy to give empathy to the wicked. So we have to be very clear on that, because people will take not caring to the extreme and say, well, where were you when I was struggling? You know, and that person that you're talking to or talking about really is struggling and really didn't have, because at the end of the day, this was our own doing. This was our own doing. This was our Father's punishment for our own doing. So for us to, as a nation, as a rejuvenated nation, we can't fall victim to what our forefathers fell victim to. Now, what did they fall victim to? They fell victim to having a stony heart. They fell victim to having a stiff neck. They fell victim to having no empathy for the nations, which meant that they fell victim to not loving their brother or sister. Well, now we are in a different time period to where we have the grace and mercy of the Father to look back and be able to see the error of our forefathers and the errors of their ways, and to be able to fix their errors and not fall into the snare of their errors. And all of this is mental. All of this is a control of mental capacity. And what we have done is, which was a defense mechanism, what we have done is to harden our hearts now in order to survive and get through the last 7 years. Now, you know, am I empathetic to the wicked? Absolutely not. They get their just rewards because our Father is just, because our saints are under the altar crying for justice. We are still crying for justice. So yes, the wicked need get punished, and I will not shed a tear. However, those that the wicked are still punishing and still downtrodden and still crushing today, all the empathy for my heart goes out to them. Now, I'm not going to be bamboozled into believing that, you know, all of what I'm shown on the television is true, but I can still, in my spirit, pray for the oppressed, pray for the innocent, pray for those that are struggling today. And that is the difference between the empathy or having empathy and not having empathy. So we can't get it twisted by just not wanting to to care about these people, this world, these nations, and the people in it who are being oppressed, because we also have been oppressed. And because now we have come out of our oppression to a degree, and our Father is now giving us mercy and grace, and he's laying his hand upon the necks of the heathen and the Gentiles, we have to do our part, and that is to show the love and empathy to those that the wicked are now turning their face to. So that said, I do have a treat tonight, a conversation that we will have here in a moment. But I want to read, before we get into this conversation, I want to read 1 Kings, because this is an important piece of empathy, because empathy, there's several forms of it. Empathy is wisdom. Wisdom is empathy, because like I just finished explaining, we have to know who to have it for and who not to have it for. Okay? So 1 Kings, this is just the setup. This is Solomon, being the king, coming from Pharaoh and taking Pharaoh's daughter as his wife, praying to the Father and asking the Father for wisdom. The Father gives him wisdom. Now we bring it forward, and this is a story that we've all known, but this is empathy and wisdom. Solomon had to show empathy. He had to show the wisdom of empathy in order to be wise. And this is the key. This is where we are now. We have to be wise as we provide empathy and energy to the world. In the past, we just gave that away. We were always empathetic to everybody. We always forgave everybody. We always gave our energy. We always gave our prayers. Now we have to hold tight to that energy, that prayer. The menorah, our light, our oil, we have to hold tight to it. But we have to give it when it's time to be given. That's the empathy. So anyway, 1 Kings 3:16 through 28. Then came there 2 women that were harlots unto the king, and stood before him. And the one woman said, O my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the 3rd day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we 2 in the house. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight, and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son, which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king, The one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in 2, and give half to the one and half to the other. Then spake the woman whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O my Lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all of Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. Now, the empathy was that he listened. He was able to listen and hear the spirit of these 2 women. And in doing so, he made a wise judgment. Now, that's what we're talking about tonight. The wise judgment to bring forth the empathy, to give empathy. the wise judgment to give empathy, because that is for us to decide. And in deciding, we have to make a decision, and a decision is judgment. Judgment doesn't just lay at the feet of the law. It lays at the feet of the decision of each and every one of us. And in that decision is empathy. Now, let's bring forth brethren. My brother, Brother Shamar. All praises, brother. Are you there?
Shalom.
Yeah.
All praises, brother. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
All right. Shalom. Grace and peace to all the Kingdom family, and those who realize and those who will soon realize that they're Kingdom family.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and thank you for having me. Like I told you, the Father used you to get me off the fence for all of these years, and you could take a beating from people in ministry with an agenda, man, and that will attack your self-esteem, to speak out, and only if you agree with them or if you're following them, and kind of repeating what they're saying. But if the Father has you stand on certain principles and things they don't agree with, they will reduce you to nothing. They will attempt to do that,
That's
and
right.
that's some of the things that I suffered in my thought process, as the Father has given me some amazing insight that, again, you don't want to share it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But from person to person, you kind of shy away from speaking out to too many people because your self-esteem has been beaten. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. What do we have tonight? We're talking about empathy, and one of the major things about empathy that I've discovered in my walk and on my journey is that empathy covers you in the beyond. The Third Testament talks about the beyond. So that's in your eternity, and it is in your best interest to consider that what you see happening could be happening to you.
That's right.
And never to forget that. There's several places in Scripture that speak about how to treat people that we are naturally opposed to be careful. We could look at Deuteronomy 23:7-8. Can we do that?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You getting it, or you want me to get it? You got it?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, sir, man. So it's Deuteronomy 23:7-8. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land. The children that are begotten of them shall enter the congregation of the Lord in the third generation. When I read that, the first, what came to my mind, that Third Testament, right?
That's right. Yep.
So, and that's a new conversation. I realized, it was very new to me, and I've been taking my time and allowing the Father to kind of, just soak me in it. But I cannot find any fault in it. It's chillingly beautiful, man. And it's an individual experience, man. You have to be called to see it. That's all I could say, man. But
That's right.
Being careful, man, just how you treat people, because it could be you. It's just all about even loving your enemy as not loving them, but praying for your enemies. That's been a hard one, in terms of why would the Father ask us to pray for our enemies? Well, it's to cover you. You know what I'm saying? So it all turns back, if you look at the theme of the responsibilities given to each and every person that the Father's created. It all turns into, again, it all points to personal responsibility. You're responsible for the development of your fruit, and anything that would get in the way of that, boasting, high-mindedness, being hateful, all of the lower vibration of operation in this reality, man, it puts you at serious odds with the Father. And we just recently learned, I just recently learned that it's actually us that's going to judge ourselves. And before the Father, because in the midst of that righteousness, you won't be able to take it. It's like you have a cousin who murdered people in Connecticut, and he comes to visit, but he's the only one that knew he murdered them. And you say, hey, man, I want to stop by the police station and visit my brother, Why don't you come in and meet him, Could you imagine, the turmoil that man is going through, because he knows what he's done, So we have to be careful, man, how we treat people, I'm so happy to be learning this, man. And
all praise.
The truth that you reap what you sow. I've lived it, man.
See, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's what I've always said. This is a psychological warfare. He told us that we fight not flesh and blood, but principalities in high places. So if we take this just on the psychological level, it would only make sense that we will convict ourselves. That's why I always say, we have to first self-reflect. Then we can self-convict. Then after self-convicting our own consciousness, then we can self-correct with the help of the Father, with the help of the Spirit.
Right.
Because what's happened is that the conscious and the subconscious has been dormant for so long and suppressed for so long that the world has been able to utilize our consciousness for their own gain. Now we've decided that we decide to take our consciousness back and to raise our subconsciousness. And as we've done this over the last 7 years, which is interesting, the 7-year tribulation, we'll talk about that momentarily, but at the end of the day, when the last 7 years, we have been subtly and methodically raising our subconscious to our conscious, which then brings forth the collective consciousness. And a lot of people are not, a lot of the nations, I'll say it like that, the heathens and the Gentiles are unable to recognize that because that's something they've never seen. That's why it was written that they will be astonished at our salvation. Now, I always thought about that, and that astonishment of salvation is something that is truly perplexing to them. They don't know whether to run, hide, be joyful, be scared. That's astonishing. That's an astonishment of sight. And so within that salvation, that is within our salvation, we bring the empathy. We bring the passion, the compassion, the wisdom, the knowledge, because our mother, the wisdom, the dove, brings that. That is all her traits. Wisdom brings compassion and empathy. Because if you're not wise, then you don't care about anybody else, only yourself. And that's what the nation's for. So when Ish is over there screaming bloody murder that they must kill, 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 well, right off top, you already know that they're not the people. Because they're not being wise. And if they are Israel, they would have what? The Spirit. The Spirit does what? Give wisdom. Wisdom does what? Gives compassion and empathy. This is Psych 101. Right. This is purely Psych 101. But when we were in our curses, when we were, I'm trying to use another word other than curse. When we had that millstone tied around our neck, when we were in our chastisement, that's good too. Right. When we were in our chastisement, we could not understand Psychology 101. But they could understand it, okay? They understood how to maneuver and manipulate our conscious. They just couldn't get to our subconscious, because subconsciously we wanted what? Justice. They want us to believe that our people wanted freedom. No, we did not want free Edom, okay? We wanted justice. And in getting and wanting this justice, we had empathy for everyone else. Now that empathy cup has been full, okay, just like the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, so has our empathy. Now it is a measured amount of empathy to give out. Because here's the deal. If you don't have empathy for yourself, you can't give it. If you don't have respect for yourself, you can't give it. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to give love. So the whole logic of this is that we first have to deal with ourselves. That's what this 7 years of resurrection has really brought forth to the forefront. It is, if nothing else, take care of yourself, right? If nothing else, take care of yourself. Sister Pat was saying time is of the essence because time is short. Damn right it is. And if we don't see that, if people don't see that, they are not wise. What are we chasing after? Right? We're chasing after wisdom and the Spirit that the Father continues to put into our face. And as our face, as our face turns even more and strengthens even more to the Spirit that we're seeking, we're gaining empathy. And that's going to be a tell. Christ said, I come to bring division. I come to bring variance. So when we think about that, we normally would think about variance as person against person, but that's also variance within yourself, your own spirit. You're going to be fighting against your own spirit because such a terrible thing has been done to the Hebrew people that the psychology, their psyche has to be recalled. It's got to be a recollection, right? That's what he said. I'm going to bring everything into remembrance. Now, how does that fit into empathy? Well, he showed empathy to us by allowing our mother's spirit to come back to us. So we also have to show empathy to those that are out here struggling under the foot of the revived Roman Empire. And it's revived by way of Ish, because the Romans aren't in control of their world. It's Ish that's in control of their world. And here's the irony. I'm going to sidebar that for a second. But here's the funny of the whole thing. Ish, as we know today, has full control over our elected officials, so-called elected officials, okay? In which our elected officials take our money that we pay into the coffers of these degenerate leaders and gives it to Ish, who then in turn takes that money and buys our leaders.
Right.
How?
Yeah, our shoppings and all. Yeah, I got you.
It doesn't.
I wouldn't call them leaders. But.
No. I'm not even talking about just the Negro leaders. I'm talking about all of them. All of them.
Yeah,
they buy them.
All political leaders. Yeah.
Right, but they take our money and buy our leaders with it. So here's the question.
Yeah, I got you.
Here's the question that we were talking about before the show started. Here's the question. Because what is empathy? Tell us what empathy is again, brother.
It's when you're able to put yourself in another person's shoes.
That's right. So can we put ourselves in the shoes? So can we put ourselves in the shoes of the Palestinians?
Oh, can we?
Yeah.
Now I believe according to an election, it could happen in terms of how the Most High distributes souls into this reality. I mean, that's something to really consider, and I think that's one of the one of the things to be careful about, and the reasons for empathy is, again, that it could have been you, and that's what I understand about it, and have learned, and of course, in recent, that now, if you could, I don't know if you know where there's a scripture that speaks about to be not to boast. I know it talks about, but in the way that not to boast at the fall of your enemy. I don't believe it says in that one that it could be you, but there's some statements to be careful about. Boasting over your neighbor's destruction, that it could, because it could have been you. So that's the wisdom that you were talking about. That empathy is, So I would say yes. I mean, in a timeless reality, yeah. I mean, you don't choose who you are in this reality. So that's the reason I would say that yes, it could have been us, but it's not. So we need to be careful, because the Most High is, there's no beginning and no end to Him. And you talk about timelessness. Now we're learning, of the cycles of souls that come, and I'm not quite sure how that works in this time in my life, but I do believe those entries and exits from this reality. And I'm just glad that I'm where I'm at, and I know you are. You're glad that you're in the position you're in at this time. So, it's all about being careful, man. I mean, that kind of sums it up.
So I got another question. I got another question.
Yes, sir.
So can we have empathy for the Congolese?
Can we put ourselves in their shoes?
Yep.
I mean, I think any person on this earth, regardless of the level of wickedness that they've done or not, again, it could have been us. It could have been you. So I mean, it's about being careful. So that's the position I've meditated.
So you know where I'm going with this, right?
What I understand.
So you know where I'm going with this, right?
Oh.
So can we have empathy for Ish?
Right.
So can we have empathy for Ish? I'm gonna answer that first.
It sounds like it could go into. It sounds like it may be convoluted with sympathy. I wouldn't say we could have the sympathy aspect. No, but the empathy is, from my understanding, is being careful. Of how we see it. It's like, I spoke to Brother Yaquah, Shalom, grace and peace, if you're listening, about we were talking about all the things that were happening in the war, and it just came to me like it did before, man. When we see these things, man, we just got to just look at the ground, man. The same way when white women walk by, and in our history, man, look at the ground, don't look at it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, listen, just look, just Don't even, yeah, brother, because and keep your head low. Don't raise it above the line of fire, brother. It's just as serious as that. Just really being careful. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
So my thing is my thing with this is no, there's really no need to have empathy for them, because they the only time that we will have empathy for them is, as it is written, they will come and worship at our feet and know that our Father has loved us. So at that moment, yes. But up until that moment, no. Why? Because we still want justice. So would I have empathy for the Greeks and the Romans and the Arabs? See, a lot of people forget that the Almoravids, which were ancient Arabs, had us and had our people first in slavery. They're the ones that found Judah in the sub-Saharan Africa, and they began the sub-Saharan slave trade. Then Ish and them wanted to get part of the game and be who we are, and created what they call, which is not true, but which is called the transatlantic slave trade. So these traders have to pay. And, as much as I say, I will treat them the way that I want to be treated, I can say I would. I honestly would. I would not mistreat them. I have no power to mistreat them at the end of the day. Yet, at the same time, I don't necessarily have any empathy for their consequence. See, this is the key. The empathy is the consequence. So do we feel empathy for their consequence that will occur on them? Or do we have empathy for their situation today? Like, do we look at them and have sympathy and go, you know what, you guys don't even really have a clue. You guys are not wise. I have sympathy for you. I would venture to say, no, I'm not really looking at it from that perspective. I'm fixing me at this time. But when the justice comes, I won't have any empathy for their consequence. I may feel a bit of sympathy for their consequence, but I'm not going to try to put myself in their shoes for their consequence. No, they're not. I'm not going to. I would never think that I would replace them for their consequence. No, I've done that. My spirit and my ancestors have already taken that, that choice. So now you made a very good point. Sympathy, empathy. Yes, I can have sympathy for what they're going to go through. I can have empathy for what the Congolese, what the Palestinians, the Philistines, everybody who is innocent that these people, these wicked people, are putting through a war. I can have empathy for them. Where in fact, our ancestors, our parents, grandparents, great-grands, they've gone through that. So yeah, I can feel for them on that. Okay, but I won't have any empathy for Ish, the leadership in the world, those principalities, those that are subjected to the principalities in high places. Okay, for me, I think that's a lost cause. So I don't. It goes back to what I said last week. I'm not throwing my pearls to these swine, meaning I'm not giving my energy, I'm not giving my prayers, I'm not giving my thoughts to these people. Now, when there's some person that comes in and some Gentile who wants to say, well, you know what, you don't really know what you're talking about. Jesus is this and Jesus is that, and the Bible says this and the Bible says that, and it is contrary to what I know that over my studying over the last 7 years, over the last lifetime of my own studying, I can have sympathy for them. I'm not going to have empathy for them. See, this is why we have to understand the word play, because it's like today I'm in this class at work, and they were talking about essentially it was empathy. It's basically customer service, how to talk to customers on the phone, yada yada, and I brought up the golden rule. Because I didn't want to say the commandments up in, the establishment of Ish. So I said, this just appears to be treating people the way you want to be treated. And the lady was like, yeah, that's right. But in this scenario, in this situation, it is treating people the way they want to be treated. You see that?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
So here again goes this empathy. So why should I have empathy if you're having me treat you the way you want to be treated? And so when you look at Ish out here talking craziness, talking about they gonna just murder and they gonna destroy, how can I have empathy for them, or how can I treat them the way they want to be treated? They're already being treated the way they want to be treated. So we're asking for justice. So justice is me taking a step back and saying, I'm not treating you any kind of way other than the way I want to be treated. Because going back to your point, because when all is said and done, I'm going to be judged on that point. How did I treat Ish? Even though I knew Ish, and I'm just using Ish as anybody that is contrary to us, because it's not even Ish. It's the Zishis. It's the Zishis with the Z, the Zishis. Not even Ish, right? It's Zishis. They're running around just like the white nationalists. They're both running around trying to create a narrative that is a lie pushed on the world based on color of skin, based on a fictitious knowledge of I am the people or we are the dominant people, when both of those are not true. So at some point we have to take a step back and say, you know what? Okay, justice needs to be had. I don't have any empathy for their consequence. I do have sympathy for all of them that are being killed based on these neopaths that think that they are either A, the people, or B, they are dominant. So this is where we are with the empathy. And going back to Solomon used wisdom. So let's take that today. Let's take that to today. Somebody comes to us and they are asking us questions, and we're getting these two conflictory scenarios in front of us that we have to make a decision on. Now, in order to make a decision, a wise decision on whatever scenario that is placed in front of us with these two contrary situations or people or things, we have to take a step back and put ourselves in their shoes so that we can understand, so we can recognize, right? There's your empathy, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at that as well.
You see? But in doing that, you have actually utilized wisdom so as to be able to take a step back and put yourself in their shoes to make a proper, wise decision. But what's happened in our world, no one has empathy for anybody. They don't want to be in their shoes, and yet they want to judge them still based on no fact, no information, no truth. So that's why justice, to me, has to come, one. And two, in order to be empathetic, we have to first understand the wisdom that we have to understand our own individual and collective wisdom. That's how I see that, the empathy. And I'm not saying that everybody's bad or everybody's good. What I'm saying is we have to be wise now. We have to be very, 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 very wise. We have to be wise as, what's the scripture? We have to be wise as
wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove.
There you go. There you go. We have to
wise
be
as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Absolutely. I want to bring something out here based on the things you just said. So, I think this is what you're saying, and and what I'm seeing right here, and what the Father's showing me over time is, it's going to amalgamate through this right here. So let's do Isaiah 42:6. And let's chop on that for a minute. Bring it out.
My God, let's do it.
All right. So Isaiah 42:6. I, the Lord, have called you into a righteousness and have taken hold of your hand and submitted you as a people's covenant, as a light unto the nations. Right. So submitted you as is basically. Called you to be a template to the world as to how to dwell in the earth in a way that pleases the Father.
That's right.
So in a way that pleases God, Yahweh. Yahweh. Different people have some different names. Okay, and by the way, just FYI. There's scripture that says that my law is above my name. So but we're not going to go there right now. So again, Isaiah 42:6, the Lord have called you in righteousness and have taken hold of your hand and submitted you as the people's covenant, as a light unto the nations. Right. So let's go to Ezekiel 33:11.
Wait. Go finish that.
Go ahead.
Go to 7.
Okay.
Go to 7.
Now, so in my notes, I had that in my notes, and we're going to go ahead and bring 7 out.
Okay. So I'll start at 6.
Now I'm going to tell you this. Say it again now.
I said I'm going to start at 6 and go to 7. But go ahead. What'd you say?
Okay, I got it.
You ready?
Stand by for 1 second. No, hold on. We got it. And I made a copy of that in my notes with just that one, and we could take it forward into number 7. So I'll start at 6 again. And the Lord have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thy hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light unto the Gentiles. Okay, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house.
That's right.
Yeah. So
the prison, again, prison, they say it's the jailhouse, but prison is your mind.
Absolutely.
Prison is your mind. So that is what we are here to do, and that's what I'm saying. And I'm going to let you go forward with it, but I just got to interject here. That's my point about empathy. We're here to do a certain thing, right? To bring a light. We can't give the light to the darkness. We just can't give it away. It's the oil. We can't just say, you know what, shoot, I got a bunch of oil. Let me give it to you. No, that's not how this works. Oil is wisdom. Wisdom is oil. In order to have the oil, you have to have had wisdom. So right now, we are set up to be the light, to bring the light to the prisons of the minds of the people. And that's not. And if Ish and Zish and the Gentiles and the heathens do not want that light, we are not here to force it on them. That is what they have done. They have imposed their will on us. We will, and we're not imposing anything on anybody. That's the difference. But go ahead, brother.
Okay.
But that was a good that was a good script. That was a good script.
So let's look at it I'm in my notes, but I'm going to go to Ezekiel just in case, you want more of it. But it's because I had posted these in my notes to bring out. But Ezekiel 33:11, right? Let's talk about it. In the camps, we would say Shlika. Salakia.
You say Salakia.
Yeah, okay.
Ezekiel 11.
11.
Oh, 33
and 11. Yes, Ezekiel 33 and 11. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. So say unto them, as I live, says the Lord of God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways, for why will ye die, O house of Israel? So that's back to what I would say, another conversation concerning dropping the ball of showing that to the nations. You see, that's just because no man on the planet should rejoice in the death of other people. Take pleasure in the death of other people. But it was first to start with us Israelites, with our forefathers, and they seen the practice of the joy of murder and the joy of hurting another man, hurting your neighbor, hurting women, whatever, just this horrible treatment of your brother and sister that share this reality, and that's a bad representative of the Father. I mean, because people will quickly say, even brothers that roll that way, they quickly say, oh, you can ask them, is the Father love? Oh, yeah, Yahweh is love. Okay, then why aren't you love? I mean, this is a mirror action. This is, this reality, we're supposed to mirror the Father in the earth. That's right. Really, in a nutshell, what we're called to do. I do know the scripture that says, what is the duty of man is to, I think it says it's to fear Yahweh and to keep his commandments.
That's
and the to fear Yahweh and keep his commandments is to fear being pleasurable over the destruction of anybody. And that's that aspect of keeping your head low, and just being careful. Now, you could go down and say, you know what, he wouldn't listen. I mean, this is what he gets, but just simply taking pleasure is that's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that you're saying to take pleasure.
I would agree with that. But
in
this verse,
we have no pleasure in what's happening. But hey, what's happening was it was merited, definitely. But I am not pleased to see anything happen horrible to anybody, brother. But but if it happens, you ask for it.
Right, and that's
I'm not laughing at it in that way. I'm just saying, bro. The way I kind of laughed at the way I said it, but I mean, so you see what I'm saying. But it should grieve our heart that you made a decision to cause that to happen to you.
That's where I was going to go with it. See, because at the end of the day, we all have to take a step back and say, you know what? These scriptures were all discussing and talking to and by Israel or the Hebrews.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you can't, so there's two separate scenarios going on. There's this law and this consequence towards Israel, and the rest of the nations. We're supposed to look at Israel and see the law and understand the consequences, but they didn't. Okay, so it goes back to what you just said. They chose that. Okay, yes, he has no pleasure. He has no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways, For why will ye die, O house of Israel? So he's not asking the Gentiles.
Right. But initially, not to cut you, but to interject, this I was speaking of as the template to the world. Mm-hmm. So right. Israel was supposed to do this first. That's all I was saying.
No,
I
agree.
This was the initial requirement of a part of what was called being a light to the world, was that we would function by not taking pleasure in the death of first of all, in the death of our brothers of the tribes. But there's a time. We're in a time now where. Go ahead. Say it again.
Our forefathers were some wicked people. Okay, I am the first to acknowledge that, and that's why the scriptures are written the way they are. They're written to give us benefit, to show us what will happen, what has happened, and what will happen based on consequence of the actions of our forefathers, because judgment starts at the house of Israel first, right? So, okay, I get that. Yet at the same time, when justice, because here's the difference, here's where we've got to understand that we are no longer under the punishment per se of the consequences of our forefathers. We're no longer there anymore. But we still can be under Jacob's trouble if we choose that, right? Yet the Gentiles, the nations, won't acknowledge what they've done. So they won't repent. They won't atone for what they've done to our people, even though some of our people deserved it. The Father wanted it. They went overboard. We know that. That's not, that's easy. Yet at the same time, these people, because they won't repent, because they won't atone for, they have to pay. And the payment, unfortunately, is not on them that did this, but on their children. Just like the mirror of Israel. It happened not necessarily just to them, who said, let us have Barabbas and let his blood, let our Messiah's blood be on us and our children. Okay, that occurred. There's truth in that. But, and there's the conjunction, but the nations have that now. Why? Because they said, we don't care about these people. Let their blood be on us and our children. You understand? This is the dichotomy of how the scriptures have lived throughout the ages. So now, when it's the wicked's turn, because it was our turn, all right? Israel was the righteous, became the wicked, and was held to account because of that. Now the nations. I
think it's important to bring something out. I'm sorry to cut you, but go ahead, finish. Now the nations. Go ahead. And when you finish, I want to bring something out before we get too far away from it. Go ahead.
Okay, the nations now are the wicked, and they also have to pay or have consequences of their actions. That's all I'm saying, and the empathy and the consequence, all of that is one to me. But go ahead, say what you wanted to say.
I think it's really important to bring out what we talked about 3 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about, and hopefully we could cover this again, concerning the name and what. See, names, titles, and names from the Father, they mean their action. They're not just titles. It's Israel, or Israelite. It's something that's done. And remember, we talked about, when have Ish ever done what Israel really means, man?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, just something that simple. Like, what does that mean? What is Israel? Okay, why do you call yourself that? Oh, okay. Oh, oh, Israel is to be a light to the world. Well, have you ever been a light to the world, man? I mean, never, man. It's just been a thing of pride that we are the people of God, and we're going to do
murder,
this thing
brother.
the way we want to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just been
so
murder.
They've never done what Israel means, and one day soon, Most High willing, I love to bring out the meaning of Israelite, and how that has been just trampled upon, man, to the point where I'm ashamed to tell people that of other nations that I'm an Israelite, because they'll see the kindness and, they can relate to, you're a Christian. Yeah, I mean, you could, I follow the anointed one. Absolutely. Let's go there. You want to speak Greek? I'm a Christian.
Right.
So, we can go there, but I think sometime I say, I want to let them know, listen, I'm an Israelite because Christ was an Israelite, but I'm like, do you have enough time for that conversation to clean that up after what we've seen on TV concerning what they know as Black America claiming to be Israelites? It is not a pretty picture, man. It's an absolute horrible representation of the Most High, man. Of the mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Hold on. Why don't you tell the nation what your background is, how you're affiliated to that, and why you saying that?
Well, my background, the father started to tweak my conscience in the 80s, running hard into music and drugs and alcohol and all of that. So just to really get through it fast, I'm not actually, I do plan to do a testimony on a at another time, more detail. But fast forward, I moved to North Carolina to try to clean my life up and kind of see a new start from how I was living. And it took a while, So I went through Sunday church, and I'm happy about this, though, man. I mean, my journey, I'm really happy about it. I've learned a lot, man. You can't speak to something that you haven't experienced. So, I went through that time through the 90s, and fast forward to the 2000s, around 2005, 2006, I was with a church with a brother that we visited another church, and the brother, an older gentleman, which was a teacher, a pastor, or whatever, he kind of pulled out coattail and said, hey, do you realize the Bible has been hijacked? And we was like, man, what are you talking about? Because, hey, we were teaching, pretty much, let this mind be in you, which is still, an absolute command. It's we need to let the mind of Hamashiach, which is the Christ, the Messiah, be in us. We need to let that mind be in us. But, we went into the whole reality that Deuteronomy 28:68 was speaking about the, transatlantic slave trade. It's like, man, that is undeniable. Look at that, man. You don't need to take a ship to Egypt, I mean, not in the sense that in the first way it happened. So that really got our attention. And so, to move a little faster, it grew into where we made connection with One West, some brothers that had moved down here to North Carolina, in the Raleigh area. So and then went into camp doctrine pretty much, and it's a camp here in Raleigh called Yahweh's Camp, and I was a part of that. And but just like the brother that called himself a priest, he would always tell me. He and I were very close before we even got in ministry at all. He was like a brother to me, worldly brother at one time. But back to the story, he always told me, man, you just never really been all the way in. Kind of what he meant was I never really followed him all the way. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because I'm checking this thing out, man. I'm not jumping both feet in and tripping on a Hebrew Israelite play that you a priest and I owe you my money for blessings.
Right.
Now we're not doing that, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it got real crazy. Some people who knew this, the dynamic, they may have thought that I thought more of them than I actually did. But I love the brother even to this day, man. I mean, I wish I wish the Most High would help the brother snap out of the hate and the mindset he's in. So, but just so I went through that, man. I was in a camp, probably, I don't know, man, about 12 years, and I just seen the behavior over time, man, the lack of integrity, the camaraderie aspect, it wasn't, based on the right thing. It was based on, yeah, man, we all believe the same thing. We can get 20 of us going 95 south, and we all say, yeah, we on our way to New York. But you know what? You on your way to Florida, bro.
Right.
But we feel good about it because there's 20 of us.
That's right.
So we're an emotional people, and my brother, So I'm very sensitive to that, man, because I'm a realist, man. I'm just like a to-the-head type of person, man. You know what I mean? I don't like fake relationships and playing brother and playing this and playing that. So, it just came to a head, when I seen the heart of the brothers, man, and I talked to them about the love. And I said, there's a common denominator here, and it's a lack of the teaching in the law of Christ, man. We're not dealing with the love, and the brother that calls himself a priest, he comes out and tells me, ask me, hey, Shamar, what kind of, you talking about this love, what kind of love you talking about? And I'm like, brother, you call yourself a priest. Why you don't know what kind of love I'm talking about? And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you guys are just, we don't have a clue. I'm not going to say we, but the camps. You guys don't have a clue. Now, I'm not saying every person in the camp don't have a clue as to what that love is, but a lot of times, man, you're afraid to make a move because of how people see you, and, nobody knows anything. They don't know you to do anything but keep Saturday Shabbat and be there with your fringes and your mitri, your turban. And but deep down inside, man, man, you're in something that's almost like a gang, man.
It's a gang.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and on top of that, I'm a very friendly person. So I meet people of all nations, and they may ask me things about what my belief system is based on my behavior. I've had it happen. Hey, man, what church you go to, man? See, are you a minister? I said, no, bro. I just tell them my name. I don't do titles. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I keep my head low.
It's like I don't want to cut you off real quick, but I want to reiterate what we talked about in this situation. It's like them calling themselves priests. Well, did the Father tell you to give you that title? We are soldiers. We are nothing but soldiers, grunt
soldiers
in
brother.
This. And all
soldiers,
these people,
brother.
That's right. All these people that sit out here and talk about, well, I'm a priest this, I'm priest that, or I'm priest that. Listen, to me, that's the same principle as when Christ said, if they tell you I'm in the wilderness, don't go. If they tell you I'm in the mountains, that's the same concept. Every time I hear these people, it's just like the Gentiles. God told me this. God told me that. I had a dream, and God came to me and told me that Donald Trump was going to win. See, all of it is Gentile mindset. And Gentile mindset is not a color. That's where they go wrong. They want to say the Gentiles is all white people, whatever. Well, that's not true.
No, it's not.
There's no truth in that. Nope. And the whole thing is that's why this whole consciousness has come at the right time for us, because if we allowed the camps to be our voice, imagine how all that would be. Imagine the sour taste in the mouth of our own people. Because you had to hate, because the Father said you will either hate the one and love the other. The camps want you to hate the other and love the one, okay? And we're saying, hey, just love. You even got to hate.
Yeah, let's deal with this real quick. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but empathy is love. Empathy is love, right?
Empathy is love,
and so is justice, right? And so is and so is consequence, right? All that is love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what people fail to realize is that they, with the nations and the camps, brethren, a lot of them, not all, and not all the nations, but what people fail to realize is that love is. We have had this. So the nations never could understand what love is. Love is the unconditional love of wisdom. It's wisdom, okay? Because wisdom was taken from the earth for a time, love turned into a lust. It turned into a way of controlling the senses and the libido of people. It never really formulated into the actual pure love of wisdom as it was meant to be. And now, when wisdom has come back to us, we are now showing the world love through our own actions, through our own self-convictions. And the next phase for us is the empathy. See, we couldn't have empathy in the beginning because it's a lot of it's too much to ask the children of the oppressed to give empathy to their oppressors' consequence. It's too much to ask. We had to have had more knowledge. That's why I said knowledge will increase. Knowledge is what gives us the boldness, the strength, the wherewithal, the wisdom to even accept the empathy of the other nations, to even give the empathy to the other nations. So we've as everything is falling down, we're being built up so that we can show the light. It's like you and I talked before. It's the menorah.
Right.
It's our light. You know, the menorah has to be what we maintain. And yes, it was dull. Yes, you know, because our menorah was gold in us, but it got dull, and there was only one light, one fire left, and that was that was what our mother, with the Holy Spirit, asked our Father to allow her to keep with us, and He allowed us to have that one light, that one spark, so that when it was time, that would light our menorah, so that we can then go and light the nation's menorah. But the nations have to accept it. That's the key right now. And that's where the empathy comes in. Because we don't have empathy for those that boast, talk down, hate, destroy. We're not here to give them empathy. We're here to give them justice. And you know, my words, what I'm saying is we're here to give it by way. We're here to issue it. We're not passing the judgment. It's like the patrolman who issues you a ticket based on your actions to go. You are being summoned. We're summoning the nations to court, to the court of the Father. We're not judging them.
The way, it looks like to me the Father's doing his thing concerning that, because I mean, you know, hands down, I mean, the scriptures say that vengeance is mine. So, but you know, to speak to, before we get too far away from it, the title thing, just to put it out there, Romans 12:3, man. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith, man. And grace is really like knowledge. I'm just really realizing that, like, when you're giving grace, you're giving insight, you're giving knowledge,
right.
you're giving a certain type
foresight.
of authority.
Right.
Yeah, foresight, because, it just stood out when it says, for I say through the grace given unto me. That's foresight, insight, instruction, the ability to see spiritually, you know what I mean, to see metaphysically, that's grace, man. That is grace, man. That's grace is what brings us to life in this life, man, because there are a lot of people walking, but they're walking dead. And, one of the other things, man, my man Yahquah, man, listen, man, he hits hard, man. I love that brother, man.
He does.
And he always say, there's a thing that you could be right, but you could be dead right. I'm
That's
like,
right.
Man, is that not
dead? Right.
Man, you're dead in what you're right about what you're saying, but you're dead in saying it.
Right.
The way in there's another statement. I think it's just a worldly way of saying it, but it's the truth without love is brutality. So I could say what I'm saying to you is true, that it went down like this, that this is what you are, but the way I tell you matters. It matters based on what am I going to reap by how I'm telling you this, because I'm sowing something when I'm dealing with you now. I'm sowing something, and I need to be careful. You know what I mean? But that's what the brothers in the camp, just to touch that, they don't realize that they're sowing some bad seed, brother. They're sowing some bad seed. But go ahead, bring it out, bro.
You're right on point. This is what I'm saying. Like, these conversations, listen, we got to have these conversations, and where we don't agree on everything, it's rightfully so, because everyone has their own walk and their own journey, right? But we have to have these conversations in front of the nation, so that they can see that, hey, we just are normal. We just trying to have conversations. We just trying to do the right thing. And as we do the right thing, what's happening is it's rubbing off on our nation. And I tell you, it's a pleasure. It is.
Right.
It's a pleasure to hear these things, because when you watch these other nations, it's just the joke that I put on the other day was something Fang, this guy out of Hawaii, Fang, and he's talking about. I sent it to you. Let me see. What did he say? What was it? Wait a minute. Don't go nowhere. Hold on. He said the Gentiles' communications at this point is about why my prayers go unanswered. Now, this dude J.D. Fang is one of their higher up preachers, okay? But they're asking simple, silly questions. Why my prayers go unanswered? Well, wait. I thought that first of all, your prayers are going unanswered because we're not helping you in it. Second of all, your prayers are going unanswered because you're the wicked. So now we go back to where were we? Ezekiel, where were we? That of the wicked.
Ezekiel 33.
Yep, 33:11. So we go back to the wicked.
11 saying to them, as I live, said, Lord, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked.
That's right. So, but he doesn't listen to their prayers, though. He don't want them to die. He wants them to live, but he needs them to get it right. But he ain't listening to their prayers. So then, how is it? So what's how can they gain? How can they gain, brother? The only way they can gain is by cleaving to us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
So them being wicked, unable to have their prayers answered because we're no longer, standing in the gap or the cut for them, okay? And we're no longer giving our energy to them. they now have to cleave to us to have their prayers answered. Isn't that not biblical?
Well,
is that not what has been written? That's the whole point.
Let's bring it out. I'm gonna bring it out. James 4:3. Yeah.
Bring it out, brother.
And receive. James 4:3. Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lust.
Right.
That's why. And see,
that's right.
Clinging to us, we're going to have to do it first. They're going to have to see that. Okay, how are my prayers answered?
Right.
Right. How are they answered? And the light has to happen. That they have to have light to see how is it done. It's when you're not doing it for selfish reasons, that you could rise above other people. So, they needed to see Israel do that. That was the initial call and order that we be a light. That they say, hey man, you know what? When one of them's eating T-bone, they all eating T-bone. Look at that.
That's right.
When one of them driving a Mercedes, they all drive a Mercedes. Right. And they can see the blessing in that, but they haven't seen that. So they can't. There's no benefit to clinging to the wicked of the Hebrew, I'll call them. Because like I said this before, man, with Yahweh, I said, the brothers that say, oh, they the Israelites. I said, many of them may be Hebrews, but they're not operating in the function of an Israelite, man. Because Christ, Hamashiach, was an Israelite. That was look at Deuteronomy where it talks about, your brother, brothers are, those who were tender among one another. Can you help me with that? It was like talking about men being tender one toward another. In this day and time, if you talk about a man being tender toward another man, the first thing that comes to their mind is some homosexual activity. You know what I mean? But these cats was nothing to walk up on with disrespect. King David and these cats, I don't really think there's, many, if any, men today that could stand with I'm talking about against them physically and about like that. But, they knew to be careful with one another. They were tender toward, and that tenderness left because of sin. You know what I'm saying? So we are supposed, David said in the Psalms that thy gentleness has made me great, brother. That's a power. Now I'm gonna tell you, there's two meanings to that. When I hear that, my spirit tells me, for one thing, the first meaning is the patience of the Father has allowed him to live long enough to see greatness, right? And then the second meaning of thy gentleness has made me great, as he adopted the gentleness of the Father toward his fellow man, and that gave him greatness. So God's patience is his gentleness and his patience gave him time to become great, and his gentleness and his patience was an example of how he should function in gentleness toward his fellow man that made him great as well. So those are the two insights that I've gotten, the downloads, I call them, from the Spirit. And it's not like I read it, you know what I mean? It's just, it's just, I think you could see that. You see what I'm saying? You know, it doesn't necessarily say those two things, but that it has to be, because David was great. Yeah. So, but yeah, man. The character, the gentleness, man. And that's what's going to cause, back to your point, the Gentiles coming and bowing at the Israel of God, because that's where it's at. The Israel of God. That's it. Because the Israelites of the world are not actually Israelites.
Well,
that's why all Israel is not Israel. Yeah,
that's right. It's levels to this. It's levels to this. You can't be an Israelite if you're not even understanding what it is to be a light.
what it is to be a light, bro.
That's right.
Come on.
And just running around talking about I'm a Israelite, or I'm a Hebrew, or I'm a this, or I'm a that.
Come on.
See, and that's something else.
Yes,
the world has messed our minds up to believe that we have to be termed something. See, the world gives everybody these terms so that they could blame. Well, it was your fault. It was those leftists' fault. It was those Zionists' fault. It was these black folks' fault. It was these white folks. See, but when you are a light, now you're the fault lies at the Father's feet. And believe you me, no man will ever. You've never heard in any ancient time of anyone faulting our Father. You don't hear that. Now you get ignorance. No. You get ignorance of people going, well, God, why did you kill my daughter? Or why did my daughter have to go?
Yes,
why did my son and my father, my mama, my grand? No, whatever. That's just them venting off their own emotion. But you've never really heard, even the heathens and the Gentiles don't come out to the Creator and just straight up talk crazy about blaming Him for anything. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
So the terminology of Hebrew Israelite, that's gone. That's passé. That was yesterday.
Yeah.
What it is today is just a straight light. It's a spiritual light, because we have to we have to the jump off of the increase of knowledge was Israelite. Okay, so we're Israelites. We're Israel. We're Hebrew. We're Israel. We're Israelites. Well, because that, to your point earlier on in the conversation, because that's been muddied, now we have to elevate to the next phase. We have to be elevated to the next phase. And the elevation to the next phase is what? A spiritual life. And it only makes sense. The
Third Testament talks about that.
A spiritualist, that's right.
Yeah,
spiritual light.
That's right.
You know? It only makes sense.
Spiritual light, that's right.
Because at this point, we're changing from the physical to the spiritual, from the material to the spiritual. So all of this has to now be part of a spiritual awakening,
spiritual
or spiritual understanding, a spiritual light.
Man,
That's right.
I love that, man. I love that spiritual light, bro. Now, I any of the nations that I encounter, they can understand that. What do you do? Are you a Christian? Well, I'm a spiritual light. I like that. Yeah. That's
I mean,
and
I take no credit for that. I take no credit for that.
Hey, man, that's the spirit, though. That's the spirit. I mean, listen, when you come to serve me, do what? Serve me in spirit and in truth. So, there it is, brother. A spiritual light, man. A spiritual light, absolutely. And I love it, man. That's right. And spiritual light is with the Israel of God are spiritual lights, brother. Yeah, that's real talk.
Because there's a church called the Israelite of God Church out there. I'm trying to stay away from any and everything that the world has. So for me, I'm just a spiritual light. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm changing the game fundamentally. And again, I got I first heard spiritual light from Sister Pat, so I got no qualms of giving her credit on that, because she brought that forward. Yeah. And so I'm just keeping it moving, because I understand, and I've always talked about Jacob's ladder.
Right.
And Jacob's ladder, that's the ultimate. In order to attain pure light, you have to be in the spirit realm. So the further we go up the ladder, the further we go up the ladder,
that makes perfect
sense, bro. That's right. We become a spiritual.
Oh man, I ride with that, brother. I ride with that.
And Israelite is someone who is in the material, because that's what the Israelite represented, the material. Not material.
Now, aren't there scriptures that talk about Israel above and Israel below?
Let's see.
I think that's Israel above and Israel below. So, again, man, with all of the bad behavior, man, it makes you want to put the word Israel away, don't it? Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean,
it's unfortunate, man. Unfortunate,
and that's the beauty of That's the bit. What is this? Jeremiah 37.
Is that it?
This is wait. Thus saith the Lord: if heaven above can be measured, and the foundation of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the sea. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not the right one. That's the measure of Israel. Nah, you're gonna have to find that and send that to me. But it goes all. It all goes. This whole thing is about us having wisdom to give empathy. We cannot just give our empathy freely. In order to give the empathy, we have to have wisdom. In order to have wisdom, we have to be able to self-reflect, self-convict, and self-correct. There's no way through the door without doing those things. There's just no way through the door. You can't go in filthy. You can't go in half-ass. It's just not going to work. So when we go through the door, we kick off the Israelite tag, and we see things as they are, which is just straight spiritual. And we pick up our sword, and we pick up and put on our armor. We pick up our shield, and we get into the war. See, when we're an Israelite, we ain't in the war. We just out here battling, talking, being physical, being material. But when we come to the spiritual light awareness, now we're ready for war. We're ready for the true war, and that's where we're headed to right now. That's my download. That's why, last week I wasn't frustrated, but I was a bit disgusted at the heathens and Ish and the Gentiles, and I was like, listen, this is not our fight. We have another fight.
Right.
Our fight is going to be the war. This is just skirmishes of the heathen and the Gentile. The war is the spiritual war that we are being prepared for. We're being prepped for. But we're being distracted by the heathen and the Gentiles because they realize that once we stand up a mighty army of the Father, of the true Creator, it's a wrap. And I'm not even talking about just a wrap in terms of it's a wrap, meaning like when you go to your room and you turn on the lights, the darkness is gone. Just like it's a wrap. It's done. When we enter war, we're not even in the war yet. We're still in basic training. And as we basic train ourselves to get into the war, we have to do certain things. And that's all I keep screaming about. That's all I've been screaming from the mountaintops, just screaming, get your shit together, Israel. Get it together. Because it's going to come a point where you're not going to be able to get it together anymore. You're going to have missed basic training. And we don't have to be tripping over them. We don't have to be so concerned about what they. It's like they're gonna kill each other. Let them kill each other. Nobody's mad at them. Nobody's really concerned about them because everything has already been written. We've gotten to the point where we have seen the promised land. Okay, we've seen the end game, and we're just going. We've got to the point where we're just going through the motions, getting to the end game. We have to continue to build, continue to clean up, continue to work, continue to learn all the way through. We can't get complacent, because the moment we get complacent is the moment that we're going to miss out on what is necessary for our growth in the spiritual war. Again, we are in spiritual warfare. This is spiritual warfare. It takes a spiritual light to battle in a spiritual war.
In a spiritual war, man. Come on, man. I love that spiritual light, brother. That's it right there. That's what it is, man. That's what it is, brother. Yeah, brother. That's something special right there, man. And of course, not that I'm gonna take it to be someone special, but I'm just saying it's a very clear view of who we are to be to enter in, man. You need to be a spiritual light. I have something here that speaks to what you're talking about in terms of in terms of the concern of what we have to do to be received of the Father, and it's a big deal, man. Just really to trust Hamashiach in terms of what he says about those who the Father has given them. No one can pluck them out of his hand. Pluck them out of his hand. John 10:27 and 28. So it's my sheep listen to my voice, and I know them. And that's let me get the King James. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And then 27 goes to say, and I give them into the eternal life, and I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. So, when I would encourage any brother or sister listening now, man, if you could, if you're having greater conscious sensitivity, thank God for that, and conscious sensitivity concerning sin. Thank the Father for that, and ask for an increase, because if you're becoming sensitive to the things that are wrong that you're doing, man, that is the call of the Father on your life, and that's what happened to me in the 80s, man. I just started to feel so, really like a fear was coming over me, and of course it would come and go, for years it would come and go. I would have these, fear, and all of a sudden I'm doing something crazy again, so we could go back to the, thy gentleness has made me great. Now, I'm not saying I'm great. I'm just saying, you just become greater in your trust. You have greater trust and greater self-control and greater ability to keep unto your body all of the things you're supposed to do, to be a representative. You be a greater representative, because I position myself as a student for life in everything, whatever, if it's music, if it's art. I just be a student for life. Always hear what someone else has to say. Don't ever be a know-it-all, and that would take you into a high function. But when you plant your feet and say you got it, you're on your way down, bruh.
Right. When you claim that you know it all, it's a wrap for you.
It's done, man. It's like a flower or anything growing out of the ground. When it stops growing, it does what? It dies. So we have to stay in a position to keep growing and to be, being careful and maintaining growth and learning to deal with. I like what Brother Yaqub said as well. Learning how to be bored, like just not have nothing to do. That used to drive me crazy, brother. But just learn how to. Yeah, ain't it get, bro? You talking about trouble? Oh, yeah. Got me in a lot of trouble, man. Ain't nothing to do. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to find something to do, and it's going to be all wrong, bro. Yeah. I was good at being wrong, brother. I love sin to tears. I mean, literally. I could cry. I was enjoying it so much, But it was just really hurting my whole existence, man. And I'm just, man, I can't tell you how grateful I am to have been called to hear and allowed to hear and be sensitive, man, to my mess, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And to finally meet brothers like you and y'all quad, man. It's been like, an amazing journey, brother. And this is a great place to be, having met you in y'all quad, that you're encouraging me to get off the fence and just have the conversation, man. And, I feel the Father is shutting down all of the beat down, the mental beat down I've received. And it wasn't, trust me, it wasn't direct. It was indirect, but you know what I'm saying? You feel it. And so, I didn't have anybody telling me nothing crazy directly, but, they have a nice way of saying, hey, yeah, you ain't ready yet.
Right.
And the real deal is they're not ready to hear the upgrade that you have for them,
Right.
The Father's giving you an upgrade that they ain't trying to hear, right?
That's the key.
Absolutely.
The key.
So but I pray and hope for them brothers every day, though, man. It's brothers out here, man, that they've went through things with brothers in camps, man, and when they separate from them, they beat them to death for the rest of their life, and just don't ever let it go, man. You deal with it, let them know, hey, man, you brothers are off right now, but once you separate, man, the Father's watching how you dealing with the conversation, man. I pray and hope that each and every one of them brothers, man, wake up to the love, man. Because, honestly, I had some great times with them, just generally speaking, man. Those were my dudes, it all that testosterone going around, we was tripping, having fun. Look, they having, Shabbat, and after they breaking out Hennessy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And look, I wasn't drinking, at that time, man. But I'm like, okay, y'all feel like real old ancient Hebrews, the ones that got us in this mess, right? Exactly. So I'm like, they don't realize how off and all of that pride to think that you could act that way and drink and get your head bad with hard liquor. Wine was fine, man. People wanted to have wine and food or whatever, man. But when you lose your character through substance, you're in sin.
That's right.
So, and a lot of that was taking place, man. But man, again, man, I thank the Father for you, man, for the invite, and I want to shout out to Yahweh. Thank him for the encouragement and actually for him introducing me to you. You know what I'm saying?
Sir.
I feel like
that's nothing but the Father, brother.
I feel like I've known you for a long time. Like when I met you, it's like I already knew you. That type.
Exactly. It's been a long time, and it really hasn't, but it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, brother, we have come to the end.
It was a
fantastic conversation. It was a fantastic conversation. And I do appreciate you, man. You're well appreciated, and I appreciate that conversation. And these conversations will continue as they normally do with us.
Appreciate you,
the rest of the brothers, and I invite other brothers and sisters to reach out to me, and they want to have conversations. Come on, let's do this thing. Let me see something. Yeah. I'll tell you right now. I got spots for bunches of people. So, come on over and have this conversation. And, I'll tell you, send me an email to tell me, and we can get some things straight and all that. But send me an email if you really want to have a conversation. My email is N as in Nancy, NAERUJ12 at Gmail, NAERUJ12 at gmail.com. Brother Shamar.
Yeah, and if you could mention the merits that they putting your treasures in heaven by even coming on and having these conversations, man. I love that the brother speaks about it. To encourage people to come out, and if it's just one person that you help that hears something that changes their life and causes them to see and hear the Father, then you've done your job, man.
That's right.
I mean, that holds a lot of weight for you in eternity.
It does.
So,
and we're doing our part, and that's what this is about. So, brothers and sisters, nothing but love, and we appreciate you listening, and we hope to listen that you listen more. And at the end of the day, this is just what we do. We're just trying to do what the Father wants us to do. Actually, I'm taking that back. We ain't trying no more. We're doing what the Father has put forth for us to do. All right. So, brother Shamar, thank you again. I appreciate that. That was fantastic.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
And we'll do this again.
So much, man.
We'll do it again. All praises.
I appreciate you helping me break the ice.
Yes, sir. We'll do it again. We'll get you. We'll get you up. We'll get you up. All praises, family. All praises, brother. And we'll talk. And
all praises.
And everybody be at peace. Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom. Grace and peace, brother.
Cash prizes every day. Adds up when you play at Pulse Casino.
Pulse.com. Over 700 casino-style games and counting. And no terrible lounge singer. Promise.
Hey, that's pretty mean.
There's always a new reason to play. Cash prizes every day of the week. PULSZ.com.
Pulse in your pocket. You can play anywhere. PULSZ.com.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.